You want to know what a professional sports bettor is betting in week 2 of college football? Eddie Walls, what's your best bet for week 2 in college football, my friend?
It's going to be Arkansas State, Arkansas over. I did a ton of work. That's game 369, if you need a rotation number. Did a ton of work on both these teams throughout the offseason. It was extensive because Arkansas lost so many starters. Their entire class from last year left. They kept Taylon Green. They kept the offensive line somewhat intact. They have an All-American left tackle. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball, especially on this version of Arkansas State, who doesn't have a defense, but is one of the few remaining teams that plays with a lot of tempo. And Jalen Rayner for Arkansas State is a premier G5 quarterback. He has some weapons at offensive line and wide receiver. They do try to run the ball, but I think they'll abandon that quickly. And something to note here, this has kind of turned into a rivalry because Arkansas State has been begging for this matchup for some time now. Do not be surprised if Arkansas does not stop scoring. I think that they would be more than content to run it up on an in-state rival. And I think 62.5 is just far too low.
Yeah, you can see here on Odds Logic a little bit of movement here. Some have gone to 63.5. 62.5 to the over, 63.5 at 411, 62.5 minus 118 over at Pinnacle. So that is Eddie's best bet of the week. As always, Odds Logic is the absolute best odds screen out there. Super easy to use. And right now, when you sign up, you get your first month free and you get a $250 credit towards any RAS product. So why would you certainly not be signing up for that? So get over to the link below in the description. We're here obviously every week. I'm John Martin. He is Eddie Walls. We are here with you every Thursday throughout the college football season, and we are on to week 2, my friend. So let's kick it off. Michigan at Oklahoma. This has just been nothing but Oklahoma all week long, and it's now out to 5 here, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to argue with this. I was hoping to get like a 3 or something. That was like in my dreams, but there was like no chance of that. I have lots of questions about Michigan. And after last week, I'm very weary of taking freshman quarterbacks or first-time starters on the road. Going to be a pretty raucous environment. I don't really trust Oklahoma's offensive line. I don't know who Underwood is throwing to for Michigan. So the under made a lot of sense, but I was pretty close to the number. I understand the Oklahoma sentiment. I just think the material is super volatile. He's going to turn the ball over here and there. Is he a scrambler? Is he a thrower? I mean, he's more of a scrambler to me than a thrower. And this is definitely the best defense he's ever faced in his career, to my knowledge. I mean, he couldn't do anything against Boise's defense last year, which wasn't that great. Boise kind of handled business there. I don't really feel a need to get involved in this game. Especially where it's at now. I think that we do see Michigan money at some point, though. If it's all Oklahoma money early in the week, I imagine that's going to interest some other people closer to kickoff. So if you like Michigan, I would probably get involved sooner than later. If you like Oklahoma and you haven't gotten involved yet, I think you could probably wait for a 4, possibly a 4.5. I don't think you're going to get a 3.5. That would be pretty unsettling. There would have to be an injury of some type. Also, Michigan has got a key defensive lineman who is suspended. I don't know if it's for the first half or I didn't read the whole story because I knew that I was kind of dead in the water with my numbers here. But yeah, interesting game. I mean, I kind of think that both these teams are projected to be extremely good, and I'm not sure I trust either of them, to be quite honest with you. But I think there's better spots for me to get involved with both.
Yeah. All right, moving right along here. Illinois at Duke. Illinois laying 3 on the road here, Eddie.
Yeah, I'm on the under in this game, and it hasn't moved much from when I bet under, actually. I think that I think it moved down like maybe a half point when I was betting it, but it's right back to where it was, which is fine. There's going to be a lot of interesting takes on this game. You have 2 premium quarterbacks. Duke made it very clear that they were not happy with Malik Murphy last year because he didn't have the ability to run. They want to be able to have a running quarterback. They want to have more of a run game. They don't want somebody that's back there trying to pass the ball 40 times a game. They also lost two very, very special wide receivers. Their offensive line is good. Illinois' offensive line is good. So I get why people would want to bet the under. I will say this: Diaz isn't going to let you pass for a lot of yards on him. And Illinois brings back their entire defense last year that beat South Carolina. And, I think that this defense is highly underrated. I can't really find any great points to how Duke, scores. And I'm very weary of Illinois' skill course position. They lost those two NFL wide receivers. They lost their best running back to Georgia. They don't really have anybody that scares me on paper at the wide receiver position, either one of them. Illinois, it's going to be very clear that they're going to want to run a lot of clock. Duke's going to try and play fast. You're going to have to mitigate the big plays, explosive plays from the quarterback run. But yeah, I felt pretty good about under.
Okay. And again, that has not really moved from open there. So could you still recommend it at current?
Yeah, absolutely. I
got it. Got it. Okay. Baylor on the road at SMU. SMU laying 2.5.
Yeah, this is Baylor's season. Like, make no doubt about it. You cannot start 0-2. That would pretty much diminish any chances you have of making a playoff. And I think anybody that read Baylor's offseason report thought that this was the best version of Baylor ever. They got blown out, period, by Auburn, who might be sneaky great. But the way that Auburn beat them is through the quarterback run. And Jennings for SMU poses that same problem. I don't have anything on this play, but I just think it's very interesting that, obviously I understand the superlatives that I think Baylor is probably the better offensive team. I'm not sure that Aranda is a very good defensive-minded head coach at this point. It's gotten bet down. The total has gotten bet down to the point where I'm fairly interested in it. I need a little bit more help to get there. But I think that there's a ton of possessions in this game. And the biggest problem I have with SMU is they're replacing all four wide receivers. They're All-American tight end Maryland. He's not healthy. Now they're missing their number one wide receiver. They might. We don't know. He's questionable. That would make a big difference in what I do here. Very interesting game. I'm not going to say that I'm involved because I'm not right now. But if this gets down to 61.5 or something, I would probably have to take a second look. I mean, I don't really care how dinged up SMU is on offense. I just feel like there's just far too many possessions here. I think we've gotten to a point of an overreaction across the board with unders from last week, which would make sense. I mean, if unders hit at 60%, obviously people are going to start tweaking their numbers. I just think that it's possible that we're reaching a boiling point where people are probably tweaking them in games that were non-competitive. And also, I think it's much harder for an offense to be put in 16 practices in a defense. So,
yeah, by the way, if anybody has any questions, comments that they want to throw at Eddie, make sure to get those in. And, we're pretty liberal in terms of, getting those out here. So if you have any, make sure you get them in. Of course, you want to be involved with the service. That's raspicks.com/CFB. All the links are in the description below the video. I think most of you are smart enough to find those. So if you want to get involved, extra service, the main service, all there in the description below. All right, moving right along. Here's an interesting one. This number has come way down in the last even 3 hours. Ole Miss at Kentucky. I believe it opened 9.5, 10, and now it's down to 8.5, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, Kentucky beat them last year without a quarterback, and we just touched on it. But this will be Austin Simmons' first SEC road start. Ole Miss lost a ton on defense last year. Everybody knows what Kentucky's going to try to do. They're going to try and clog up the game. They're going to try and make it really, really slow and trying to get it in the mud. Ole Miss plays super, super fast. Kentucky plays super slow. We did release the under, I believe, at 52 for good reason. I don't mind the Kentucky money. I mean, the Kentucky money coming in makes absolute sense. At the same time, if you like, I'm not involved in the side here, but if you like Ole Miss, I don't know how much longer it comes down for. I think you probably missed your chance if you like Kentucky at 10 or 10.5. But I mean, there's going to be a buyback on Ole Miss at some point. People just have them ranked really, really high. I don't agree with that sentiment. I just don't think you can lose an NFL quarterback, 4 NFL wide receivers, 5 NFL players on defense, and still be great. So, yeah, a home dog in the SEC of above 10 is pretty valuable.
Right. I guess again, it's a subjective and a narrative thing, but Kentucky is why Ole Miss got left out of the playoff last year. That
Sure.
stupid loss, So Lane is kind of that guy, right? Lane just strikes me as that kind of guy that's going to let them know, like, nonstop, this team is why, we didn't get in last year, losing to this team. So I don't have anything on it either, but that would be a thought of mine. All right, we have a couple comments here, a couple questions, sure. Eddie. Connor wants to know thoughts on Florida against South Florida, who, in his opinion, is off of a misleading final.
I kind of agree with you, Connor. The yards were pretty close. I think the Boise did not know how to handle that kind of heat and humidity. That being said, you can't take anything away from USF's run defense. That was a very, very sick performance. They spent a lot of money on run and on the front seven there, and it definitely showed up. So that was great. This is a different beast, though. I think the DJ Lagway can hurt you in a lot of different ways. I think that Brown can hit you in a lot of different ways. We released over 54, and that felt really, really good. What's like the lowest total that Golish has had in the last 4 years that he's been there? It had to have been against the Service Academy, and I'd have a hard time believing it was below 54, especially with a healthy Brown. Most of the time his totals are in the 60s, 63. But yeah, this is a different opponent for sure. I think that Florida can hit a lot of explosives if they decide to pass the ball. And after last week, I don't think they're going to mess around. If Lagway's healthy like we think he is, why mess around and run the ball? The only concern that I would have, I would never lay Florida in this spot, by the way. That being said, I think that South Florida is like that sneaky team that sneaks up on Alabama 2 years in a row, and they play to a different level, and then they'll lose to UAB later on in the year.
Right.
Like they get up for these kind of games, and they can score a lot of points pretty quickly because of Golish and his Heupel ties. But I definitely was like interested in South Florida until I thought I was going to get like what's this line if South Florida loses by a field goal to Boise? It's like 21, I think.
Maybe more.
Right. So there's really no value on the dog here at this price. But there's also not a lot of 17 is probably right.
Would you make? I'm just sort of riffing off of this. Would you make South Florida the favorite to represent the group of five in the playoff?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know if they win the AAC. I don't know if you watched Tulane on Saturday or North Texas, but that's a really Memphis is good. That's the best conference in the G5 this year for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's get to a couple more questions and then we'll knock out a few more here. I guess this is the American Day on the show, Eddie. Brian wants to know if UAB can score enough to take the total over 59.
I sure hope so. If they can't score on Navy secondary, who's replacing all four starters and had to bring up two guys from the juniors, which they never do, then, UAB is probably not going to be able to score on anybody. And it's very interesting that UAB's coach is still there. I don't really understand why. His buyout isn't that big. They don't have the money.
They don't have the money. They can't do
it. It's $190,000. I don't know. I would go with an interim at this point. Last week when you give up 48 points to Alabama State and, their defense is getting pushed around by Alabama State. Like they're getting like 4 yards off of every block. It's crazy. They got a quarterback and they got an offensive coordinator every single year that can score points. But it's very clear to me that this is it's a travesty because Bill Clark was my favorite coach. And, they didn't even play for a year because they didn't have the finances supposedly and all that. And then they did. And I don't know. I just feel
don't forget, he took the, they had an interim of Vincent. And then Vincent handed Trent Dilfer his ass last year when they met. I guess it was Monroe. It was just poetic justice. Yeah. So
this really does have catastrophe written all over it though. But I can't 21 with the Service Academy team. I can tell you that I played a little bit over here. I feel like Navy scores every time they have the ball, to be quite honest with you. And I know that UAB's defensive coordinator has some experience against the option, but this isn't a normal option. This isn't like Air Force. And I don't know. It just feels weird to me.
I think if we have a good week, we should start. If it's only 190K, we need to pitch in. and help them out.
Start pitching in.
You just save them. Just save them.
Kind of gross. Yeah, I agree.
All right. One more, and then we're going to get back to the last question here, Eddie.
Sure.
Thoughts on North Carolina, Charlotte? North Carolina.
Well, I wish I had better thoughts. I hate both teams currently. Well, I mean, so let's see here. Albin is probably going to run the ball with his quarterback like 12 times for 8 yards and try to take the air out of the ball, regardless if he's up or down. I don't really understand what he's doing. That was very weird against App State because I felt like that was a pretty good matchup for App State. I thought that was a good matchup for Charlotte. I wasn't involved in the side. We released the under. And then North Carolina. I mean, I told this to somebody, but it actually rings true. I don't know if you remember the COVID year when Navy and BYU played the first game back from COVID, and nobody knew that Navy wasn't allowed to practice tackling. That's what North Carolina looked like on Monday night in the second half. Like they just had no ability to tackle, like in space, group tackling. Like it was just crazy.
It was embarrassing.
It really was. But I mean, I don't know anything about Belichick, but I think I just read too much in the narratives personally about what a mastermind he is of quarterbacks and stuff, because I definitely did not see that. Yeah, I mean, if this happened 2 weeks ago, this line's like probably 17-19. Do I really feel confident that North Carolina now playing on a second-string quarterback who might be better than the first-string quarterback, but he wasn't expected to play, and he's coming off probably the most gruesome injury we've ever seen in college football. I mean, he almost has leg amputated. You know, and not only that, they designed the entire offensive system for a guy that can run, and now they're using a guy who can't run. I would probably likely to play under, you know, if it got a little bit higher, but I wouldn't feel great about it. I just feel like it's pretty early in the season. You really don't have to press it on every game, you know? I mean, I have to remind myself that every 20 minutes. So,
you know, it's hard to square the fact that LSU's NIL and rev share budget and North Carolina's were the same. Like it's amazing how much further 20 million goes in Baton Rouge than Chapel Hill, apparently.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for all the questions and comments, as always. One more here. Arizona State going on the road to Mississippi State, who, you know, I thought the bar was low. They looked better than they did certainly last year against Southern Miss. Arizona State lands 6.5 here.
Yeah, I don't like the vibes of this game for Arizona State, to be quite honest with you. I love Arizona State. I couldn't find any. There's like only maybe 5 teams in college football where I can't find any holes on the offense and defense. I really struggled to find any with Arizona State. That being said, Mississippi State I have as a leap team this year. They spent a lot of money. Even for SEC and a lower tier SEC team, they spent a lot of money. I don't think Arizona State is necessarily going to be shocked by playing in Starkville. They played in the playoff last year. They're used to playing in big atmospheres. However, I think that the approach of the offense and the defense has changed pretty dramatically in the offseason. And you only have tape from a Southern Miss game. Let's throw that out the window because Mississippi State outweighed them by 50 pounds on both the offensive line and defensive line. But I like the play calling of Levy a lot. And I do concern myself because I think that if they can turn this into a shootout, this game gets tight. If it's played in the mid-50s, I think Arizona State wins, but I don't know by margin. Levy's going to go out there and try and call 100 plays. And if he has any success, then this game gets really wonky. Arizona State's pass defense is pretty damn good. I don't know. I just kind of left it alone. I was at 61 and I was at 7 and maybe 7.5. It wasn't enough for me to be excited about.
Yep. Understood. Well, you carried the show last week, man. So I got to start doing my part. And we're going to hope to get back on the right side of the pine here. We're going to go with UTSA -4 here against Texas State. Look, this has come down a little bit. It was 3.5 earlier today. It's gotten bought back up to 4. I do think Jeff Traylor is pretty elite in these spots. Texas State just beat the piss out of them last year. They're reloading quite a bit, and I do think the Texas State coach is quite good. And will be a future star, you know, in the industry and in the business. But I think when you give Jeff Traylor this angle, I really think he's elite. I just remember last year when they were playing Memphis, all he talked about in the pregame was, we have no money. They have all the money. They have all the NIL. And then UTSA comes out as 7.5, 8-point underdogs and wins outright. So I think sort of his ability, in these spots as a motivator, I think will come through. You're talking about a freshman quarterback going on the road. UTSA is bringing everybody back. I think, look, this is an evenly matched matchup here. There's no doubt about that. But I just think the revenge factor here and Jeff Traylor's history of these kinds of spots gets me to UTSA. So I will take the 4 here with the Roadrunners.
I like your play.
Okay, real quick housekeeping. We're going to be back. I'm going to be back. I don't know where you're going to be tonight, but I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back here in about an hour and a half, 6 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock Pacific, and we're going to have the Hold the Line release show. One play. Bet Online is going to hold the line for 60 seconds. Last year it was 30 seconds. They've doubled it. And so you can get $500 for 60 seconds up at Bet Online. We're going to be doing that at, again, 4 o'clock Pacific time. So make sure you're here. Look forward to it. Eddie, man, you're the best. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you, buddy. I need it.
We'll see you next week.
You as well. Good luck, everyone. Have a great week.